Attention. It's time to register for Ellucian Live 2024, April 7th through 10th in San Antonio, Texas. Illuminate, innovate, inspire, explore higher education's greatest opportunities with future-ready ideas, solutions, and best practices designed to drive transformation. Register now at elive.ellucian.com. This conference is going to be epic. By now, you've heard me talk about Insights EDU in Phoenix, Arizona, February 20 through 22nd. Here's why I think you should join us at the Insights EDU conference. It's one of the few conferences focused on helping schools serve today's online and non-traditional students. If you're concerned at all about where your enrollments are going to come from in 2024 and beyond, and you should be concerned, you need to be at this conference. Register now at insightsedu.com and use promo code EdUp to save $50.
Prepare to be astonished.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Solucio back here in my office where I normally podcast from, returning recently from the Middle States Commission on Higher Education annual conference in Philadelphia, where I got to interview a bunch of people, including the commission chair and the president of Middle States at the same time on the same episode, which was great. And one thing is for sure, the relationship between an institution and their accreditor is very, very important as we move forward for the future of higher education, as we really aim to innovate. You know, there isn't anything that we can't do. We just have to do it in the right way, and we have to assess how we do. But innovation is really key to the future of our industry, and so your accreditor is your best friend along that way. One of the other pieces that came out of the conference was really leadership and how hard it is to be a college or university president these days. It's hard. It's a hard job. So many eyes on you, the business model, the stress, students, frankly, maybe not choosing education. And that's a problem we all have to solve. If you believe in higher education and the value of a degree, there's a big competitor, and it is the student who's not choosing college. We got to solve that together. And one person that's going to help me solve this with our guest today is my guest co-host. You've heard him before. You'll hear him again. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Greg Clayton. He's the president of Enrollment Management Solutions at Education Dynamics. Greg, what's going on?
Hey, Joe. Good to be here again, and looking forward to talking to Dr. Wagner today.
Now, did you hear that applause go off, or was it just me that heard it? I got to make sure that things, you know, when I disconnect all this stuff and I take it somewhere and then I reconnect it, it never works the way it's supposed to. But as long as you heard the crowd cheering for you, that's what's most important, Greg.
I heard it. I thought it was for you, though, Joe.
What's that? You thought it was for me?
Yeah.
That would be a first, man. It'd be a first. That's all right. And in true rookie guest co-host fashion, of which this is your second episode, so you're still rookie, you said the name of the guest before I got to introduce them, which every rookie guest co-host does. So the fact that you didn't do it the last time we talked, I was so surprised. I was like, wow, Greg's got his stuff together. So you just brought yourself down to reality. That's okay, Greg. We can only go up from here. We can only go up from here. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, he's your guest today. His name is Dr. Rich Wagner. He is the president of Dunwoody College of Technology. Rich, welcome to an EdUp microphone. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great, Joe. Greg, thanks for having me. Wonderful to be here, and I appreciate the applause.
Ah, well, you know what? Everybody gets one. Everybody gets one. We all like to get an applause. Rich, level set for the audience. We always really like to have you just start from the beginning. Tell us about Dunwoody, what you do, and how you do it.
Sure. So Dunwoody College of Technology is a private nonprofit technical college located in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We've been around since 1914. So our focus is on career-related educational programs that lead to immediate jobs, great careers. So we have everything here from 1-year certificates to 4-year degrees, everything from automotive, welding, HVAC, electrical construction and maintenance, to mechanical engineering, cybersecurity, and a whole host of things that are really meant to feed the local and national industry, which is just, really desperate for the skilled workforce.
So I love words and what they mean, and what the first thing you said is we're a nonprofit technical college. Typically, and I know because I used to work in the for-profit sector, when you saw vocational colleges or career colleges, they were of a for-profit nature. So being a nonprofit technical college is a huge value proposition, in my opinion. What does that mean to your students, to you running the institution?
Well, what it means for me first, we are a very rare breed, right? The private nonprofit technical college. I think if you look at the higher education enterprise, maybe a couple hundred across the U.S. So what it means for us is we can offer a small college experience to our students. Our student population is like 1,400 with small class sizes. We're very hands-on focused. We're very student-centric, and we're really focused on getting students to graduation. So our graduation rate, ballpark is 60% or so.
Amazing.
Yeah, which we're pretty proud of that. Stacks up really well. Job placement, depending on which program you're in, is going to be certainly 90, 95, 100% across the board. Average starting salary is near $55,000 a year. What I think what it means for us is obviously it comes with some challenges as we get no support. We're kind of out there on our own, but we do a lot of fundraising. We have a very generous community here in Minneapolis. But it also means we have the flexibility to really focus on programs that we classify as high need and high pay, right? So high demand, high pay job market is what we're trying to serve. And there's a ton of those kinds of jobs that are open right now across the nation.
I'll pass it to you in a second, Greg, but you said about 1,300 students?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So, and a lot of people who are listening know this, but it's always important to point this out. When you talk about 1,300 students in a technical college, typically, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to have faster programs. The programs might be 10 months or 12 months, a year and a half. So the churn is greater because the student is getting out. So to get to and maintain a population of 1,300 is really hard. It's not like you have 4 years to just keep padding numbers. You've got to have constant demand and constant enrollment periods in order to keep that population up. So there's always this speed that comes with working with a technical college.
Yeah, there's the challenge, and that's exactly right, Joe. Our programs, we have 1 year, 2 year, 4 year. So we're primarily a 2-year institution, but even a 2-year institution, like it's every 2 years, you're losing a group of students, right? So you're constantly, and as a private nonprofit, we're tuition driven. So the business model is susceptible to a lot of swings. So the good news for us is we have been growing. Because of the value proposition we have, because of types of careers that we train in, that we educate students in, we've been growing. But yeah, it's a quick turnover. We're happy that our School of Engineering with mechanical and electrical and computer engineering, and our School of Design with a Bachelor of Architectural program, we're keeping those students for 4 or 5 years. Because the Bachelor of Architectural program is a 5-year program. So we have some stability there, but certainly compared to a 4-year institution who they enroll their first-year students and they stay there for 4 years. It's a lot of work to get out and continue to keep the pipeline primed.
Yeah, Greg, over to you.
So, Rich, you mentioned skilled workforce before, and there's been a lot, written, and I've read a lot about the skills gap that exists in the workforce, and there's workforce shortages and so forth across various types of industries, some of which you mentioned that you have programs at Dunwoody for. How do you see that? Do you still see that as a gap we're just nowhere near closing now, and is that part of the opportunity for Dunwoody to continue to enroll students and educate them to prepare for the workforce?
Yeah, I'll be honest, Greg. I don't see that gap closing. Right. I mean, we have such high demand for our graduates, and we keep a statistic where we'll have how many companies call us and ask for a student, right? And then we'll divide the number of students we have into that, and that could be 13 requests for every one student or some number around there. Well, that sounds great for our students, But you think about the number of companies that are looking to hire talent that can't find it, it is still a very acute problem for us across all the fields that we're talking about. Like I think about the gap in the cybersecurity world right now. Like I don't know what the number is nationally, but it's thousands of people we need in cybersecurity. Right?
Tell them like it is.
What's that?
Tell them like it is.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. That's how it is. I mean, the other night we went and listened to a 4-star general that runs the NSA, and that's what he talked about. Like, this is a national, defense crisis. Like, we don't have the technicians, we don't have the cybersecurity experts, we don't have the mathematicians, we don't have the capacity that we need to have. And it's not about like protecting our data anymore and our information at banking. It's like the whole grid, right? Our electrical grids are susceptible. Our water treatment plants are susceptible. I mean, any device that's connected to the Internet of Things is susceptible. So there's huge gaps out there in these really critical spaces. Like, if we're going to be in if we want to lead in manufacturing, be the manufacturing capital, we need talent in the manufacturing field. We need robotics technicians, we need machinists, we need a whole host of occupations, and we just cannot fill the number of positions that are open here in Minnesota. And I know it's like that across the nation.
Yikes!
Yeah, follow up, Joe. That's okay on that. I'm curious about your point of view on, this is built up over the decades. This gap did not, come about overnight. But what has been the driver of that, and why these are such great jobs? You mentioned the average starting salary earlier, and sort of job ready skills, and there are employers waiting to hire people, can't hire enough of them. What do you think is the driver of the gap?
Yeah, I think it's just this stigma that we as a nation have attached to kind of technical education, right? It's where you go if you can't go to college. Well, really, like, you've got to be able to do high level mathematics. You got to be able to problem solve, analytical reason, right? Critically think. You've got to, I had a debate once with somebody about, how much critical thinking and pressure will a technician be under? Well, if you're manufacturing the robotics technician and the plant is down because of a robot, and it's, what's your downtime? $1,000 a minute, $100. It doesn't matter. You're now, the economics of your business model are failing, right? Product's not getting delivered, and you got to get that thing fixed. So I think that what we've done as a nation is we've done ourselves a disservice by not talking proudly about these types of jobs. An electrician, journey worker electrician today, I think the amount on the wage is about $49 an hour.
Are you kidding me?
All right, that's, multiply that times 2, ballparkish, 90 grand plus benefits, right? What's wrong with that as a career pathway, right? I mean, I just think that, and the challenge, Greg, has always been, how do we change people's perceptions about these types of occupations, and how do we get people excited about getting their kids into these career pathways, because they are rewarding, they are fulfilling, and they do provide access to housing and healthcare, and they provide income mobility. I mean, there's just all kinds of positive things that come out of this type of education, and yet, over the years, right, the vo-tech kind of concept, right, was where the kids who weren't ready to go to college would go. Well, that's baloney, right? I was a kid that didn't go to college. I got kicked out of my first college, and now I have a PhD, and I'm president of a college. So it's about learning style. People like to work with their hands. There's a whole host of things we got to get people excited about by talking about. So it's a topic I'm pretty passionate about, Greg. You probably tell you kind of hit a button there, right?
Yeah, and I figured that would be a little bit of a button for you. I've got a 30-year career in higher ed, and I've spent a couple of decades in the skills-based area, and I've actually been to Dunwoody before. It was a while back, and I remember visited a lot of schools of the nature of Dunwoody during that period of time, and I was super impressed with the facility that Dunwoody has to educate these students, and the technology that was deployed, and like the unbelievably talented and experienced faculty that was there at the time.
You know, I come back to, I worked 15 years in for-profit VOTEC schools, training for the hands-on careers. Back when, to your point, Rich, the stigma really was there, where it was, you know, we were serving a student, at least many thought, that was just not good enough to make it in a college, and they were going to get a trade. And I remember the second student, the first student I ever enrolled, remember that one, but the second one, because it shocked me. This lady comes in, she's a vice president of banking services from Wells Fargo. She's been there for 20 years. Comes in and says, I just don't want to do banking anymore. I want to be a massage therapist. I want to do something that I really enjoy, and I just don't want to deal with the numbers. I want to use my hands. And I went, wait a minute, you're making like well into six figures. You're doing this. And she's like, well, I'll still make enough money doing, you know, starting my own business, but then I get to make my own hours. And I thought, okay, wait a second. I was brand new. I went, this education is for anyone, right? And so what has happened since then is two things. One, the government is saying college isn't for everyone, and students should be looking at alternative pathways. And so it's good that students are looking at alternative forms of a degree, and going into careers that by the way, you can't get an electrician or somebody to fix your HVAC these days. And students are choosing it. So the government is saying, by what they're doing, they're saying drop the stigma, and the student is saying drop the stigma. They're saying, I don't want to go over here. I'm well good enough. I'm great, but I don't want to go there. I want to come here because I want to do this career that I know I can succeed in and make money in without going into maybe some crushing debt at this university that's going to put me in six-figure debt. Are you seeing that change? You talked about the stigma. That was a big build-up for this question, right? But is the stigma changing?
I think it is. I think that post-COVID, right, post-pandemic, what you saw was, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on higher ed right now, right? And one of has been this idea of what's the value of education, right? What's the value of higher education? I think that there's a group of students who are now saying, I want education that leads to a job and a career, right? And they took a look at, like, during the pandemic, you had some fields that were classified as essential, right? And they stayed open, you know, manufacturing, et cetera. And students are looking to those types of fields, right? Where so we have, you know, I'm battling a little bit, but we have seen, Joe, post-COVID, a swing and greater interest. I mean, we're, you know, like our low point was 1281 during COVID, which was like a win, right? Because it was so challenging to recruit, retain, and do all the things they needed to do, and graduate students, and et cetera. And we got them all jobs, so that's the important part too. But we, you know, this past fall, we started with 1424. So we're growing, and that growth is being fueled by students who see that here is a value proposition. Here's a value I can get in education. So there is a swing in the pendulum. I think that when you hit the nail on the head, there is a national dialogue around it's okay. But there are pathways that everybody should be looking at because they do lead to really good jobs, really great careers, and we're seeing momentum.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. For a third straight year, the EdUp Experience will be recording live at Ellucian Live 2024 this year in San Antonio, Texas, April 7th through the 10th. Illuminate, innovate, and inspire. That's the framework for the conference. Leaders from institutions around the world will converge at Ellucian Live 2024 to discover game-changing technology, share industry insights, and build powerful connections. It's time to explore higher education's greatest opportunities with future-ready ideas, solutions, and best practices designed to drive transformation. You can register now at elive.ellucian.com.
Epic. Oh, yeah.
You've heard me talk about the Insights EDU conference. Well, let me tell you 3 reasons why I think everyone listening should join us in Phoenix, Arizona on February 20 through 22nd for Insights EDU. 1, it's one of the few conferences focused on helping schools serve today's online and non-traditional students. 2, you can expect a mix of speakers you won't hear anywhere else, including higher ed leaders from Google, LinkedIn, Adobe, and more. And reason 3 Insights EDU has an agenda packed with sessions discussing the latest trends in higher ed leadership, marketing, and enrollment management. Register now at insightsedu.com and use promo code EdUp to save $50 off your registration.
Oh, yeah.
COVID was funny in that the word essential became, you might have thought you were an essential worker. And then the classification came out and it was like, you're not essential. This person right here coming to, make sure that people don't overheat in Florida because the air conditioning needs to work is essential. Or, so it really changed, I think, the dynamic of the way we thought about what was essential and what isn't when you look at infrastructure, right? Lights and heat, HVAC and, machinery. If those things fall down, you don't get all of the joys in life that we enjoy, right?
Yeah,
Greg?
and the frontline workers are a host of people that really percolate to the top, and we realize, wow, they are a very important part of our ethos.
Yeah. Before you go, Greg, is there a max out of programs, right? Is it you look at the fields that you're in, manufacturing or robotics, you've got all these different fields of students to go into. Is there an end to that? Do you eventually hit all of the manufacturing types of fields where students are in a trade? Is technology the next frontier, like, drone technology? I mean, what comes next for the trades?
The answer, I think, is we'll always kind of be in the industries we're in, but the programs we deliver will always be changing because there's just so much turnover in technology right now. It's like 3D printing was brand new 5 years ago. Today, that's called additive manufacturing, right? So, and that's changing. So now all of a sudden, your manufacturing program has to have some piece of additive manufacturing placed in it, right? I mean, so cybersecurity is evolving, and it's a broad topic, but so needed. I mean, even all these industries, like look at the automotive industry, right? I mean, this today, you can buy a car that has more computing power than an Apollo spacecraft had, right? That's one car compared to the rocket that took, Americans to the moon and brought them back safely, right? In the 1960s, right? That's one car. So, and those are changing, autonomous driven vehicles, EVs, hybrid technology. So it's not so much like we have the industries, right? Because I think we do for based on the economic needs of Minneapolis, Minnesota, right? We have the industry mix correct. But as all those technologies in those fields change, it's constantly upgrading your faculty, constantly upgrading your curriculum, constantly upgrading the technology you have in the classrooms to deliver all those topics. I mean, think about building information modeling, right? Like how we render 3D, 5D of buildings, not only including the design, but supply chains and all the other things that are necessary to build not just a building, but like a Viking state. I mean, the technology evolution is forcing us to stay in the same industry, but to make sure we're always reinventing curriculum so it's relevant for our students who are graduating.
Yeah, and my excuse me. The EdUp experience is elevating too, and you'll see as my artificial intelligence assistant, Greg Clayton, asks great questions, you wouldn't even know it.
In terms of the
See, I told you, you're never going to know.
AI works. Look how it works. In terms of Joe brought up something excellent, I thought, with the kind of the shift that happened during the pandemic with Essential and so forth. How has the student population changed? Like, what does it look like today at Dunwoody versus maybe what it looked like 10 years ago or beyond?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of drivers here in Minneapolis. Demographics have changed radically, and we've done a lot more outreach to all communities in our service area. So we're certainly a much more diverse student population than we were 10 years ago. Our age has stayed pretty similar. I think that one thing that we did see, and I think this was common in higher ed post-COVID, especially with all the shutdowns, was there were aspects of a high school education that just were missing, right? So it may have been a student wasn't as far along in math as they should have been, and some of the social skills were missing, and those sorts of things. And those would probably be expected outcomes based on kind of shutting down and going online and doing the things we did to try and keep everybody safe. So I would think by now, based on my conversations with our faculty, that we've kind of gotten through that phase, if you will. So we're kind of back to, as far as preparation goes, preparedness goes, we're kind of back to, I think, where we were pre-COVID. We also have always had a group of students like you were talking about, Joe, like the example you gave of students that graduate and then they come back to Dunwoody, and then, and I asked, like, well, I got a 4-year degree from so-and-so and such and such. Well, why'd you come back? Well, I want an education that gets me a job. I want an education where I can be outside. I don't want to sit inside. I want an education that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we typically have a good number of our students who are returning. We've made really great strides in increasing the number of women who enroll at Dunwoody. When I started at Dunwoody back in 1997, I think it was, as a faculty member teaching the electrical construction program, we were probably about 95, 96% male. Today, we're about 20-ish% female. So we've come far. We have a longer way to go. We have a lot of great initiatives. We have a Kate Dunwoody Society. It's made up of women professionals in technical fields who work to not only attract more women students in those programs, but provide mentorship and support for those who are enrolled, and then when they graduate, go into career pathways. So that's been a success. We also have a Pathways to Career program that we've launched to really focus on bringing in traditionally under represented populations into Dunwoody, and that program's having a significant impact on our enrollment of BIPOC students. So we continue to work on making these pathways accessible to everybody, because we need everybody. Like, the jobs need everybody. The Minnesota economy needs everybody. The United States economy needs everybody. Our cybersecurity defense systems need more technicians. This is a call that we just need to make sure we're reaching out to everybody who get a shot at an education like you can get at Dunwoody.
Bullseye.
Hey, Rich, by the way, excuse me, I can't talk today. Next year, I think your 18-year-old student would have been a freshman in high school. So they would have been like this peak COVID class is coming in next year. To your point, I think we're on the downslide of that learning loss, hopefully. How has the circus, regulation of gainful employment, played with you or messed with you all, if at all? Because it's there, it's not, it's the back, it's gone, it's here, it's not,
Just like you're describing, Joe, it was there, and we complied, and we did it. We don't have a lot of certificates at Dunwoody. We only have a handful, and those certificates all pass the gainful employment test. So we're not as, like, there's community colleges that have so many. They probably have a full-time position that's just focusing on gainful employment, and then not, and then they are, then they're not. We've kind of, we keep abreast of that, but because of the nature of our programs, we just don't have a lot of reporting on the gainful employment side.
What's your biggest program? What's the one?
Right now, it's electrical construction and maintenance as a program. On our construction program area is very large, and so is our School of Design, and our School of Engineering. They're all, they could all be bigger, but we're happy with the enrollment in all our programs. But electrical construction continues to surprise me. I think we have close to, I'm just kind of guessing, I'm probably gonna be pretty wrong on this if the dean listens.
That's a good disclaimer, though.
She's going to tell me that I really missed the number, but we're probably close to 200 students, 150 to 200 students in that one program.
That is amazing.
Very good. Greg, back to you.
And electrical and construction, you mentioned, is the largest. Is that where the most employer demand is coming from, or is it other areas?
Yeah, employer demand comes across all programs. I have a theory, and I never really have tested this, but a lot of our enrollment kind of tracks our economy. You know what I mean? Like there'll be a time when construction is really hot. Then there's a time when automotive is really hot. Then there's a time when manufacturing is really hot. And, I think that construction is stabilizing now. It's not growing as rapidly as it was, and it looks like manufacturing is starting to come back up, and we're just launching a new cybersecurity program, so we're going to see some enrollment there. So they tend to cycle, Greg. And one of our keys to successful fiscal management, again, as a private nonprofit, is to have a nice eclectic portfolio of programs. So we aren't all in on one, right? So when I was a faculty member in the electrical construction program, there was a time we had 300 or 400 electricians all getting jobs. I mean, that's one thing we won't ever do. We'll never saturate the job market. We've got to place our students. And then like 5 years later, we had like 56 electricians, so it swung that hard. And that was during the Great Recession of 08, 9, 10, I think is when that enrollment went down. But because we have manufacturing, because we have automotive, because we have other programs, everything kind of can stay steady. So that's one of our advantages.
Which program in the portfolio do you see technology having the biggest impact on? Joe mentioned AI kind of jokingly earlier, but I'm kind of pointing to that.
There's two aspects to technology. There's there's three aspects. Let's say there's one, like enterprise technology. Like, how are we deploying technology to be the most efficient institution we possibly can be? Because we owe it to our students, right? Because as a private nonprofit, they pay the tuition. So if we can be a more efficient organization by leveraging technology through ERPs and CRMs and document management and streamlining processes, et cetera, we should be doing that. Then there's this whole societal impact of like, who's writing those reports now, right?
This is lunacy.
Who's doing the essay in your English classes, right? Who's like,
Greg Clayton is my answer.
How do you know that resume you're looking at is a real person or not, right? Because an AI, the fascinating thing about AI is, like, I listened to a speaker talk about how electricity changed the world in 40 years. It went from something that was like we got these motors, and then all of a sudden, instead of having a steam-driven shaft going through a manufacturing facility that drove a bunch of belts, somebody put a motor on the end of that, and now we have electricity driving it. Then they decided to put electricity motors on each of those small machines, right? But it wasn't until Henry Ford created the production line that electricity revolutionized the entire manufacturing world. And that was about a 40-year gap, right? And the speaker talked about AI will do that in 3 to 5 years, right? The changing and implications on our society of AI are significant. And then, Greg, then you take all that and you factor it into how is that going to change all the programs? I mean, like when you say which one's being driven, they all are. People ask, what's one of the things that keeps you up at night, Rich? Technology, right? Because it's changing so radically. We're machining parts that in 5 years they might be growing for implanting into the human body, right? I mean, cars are becoming self-driven and all electrical. There's all these things that are just changing in all of our programs. It's fascinating and scary at the same time. So it's a long answer to the technology impact, but I think you have to look at those three areas to really kind of try and understand the impact. What's the impact on society, the enterprise, and then the programs?
Mm-hmm. It's fuzzy math.
I think about this a lot. I'm like, what programs do I have at my university that will become irrelevant? Which AI is going to supplant this? I mean, you think about marketing, right? If there's a target for AI that AI fixes right now with the way it's designed right now without any evolution, I don't necessarily need a program to train people on how to do all of these marketing plans and so on and so on. It's all machine learning. It's all AI. It can produce. You can go to Claude or ChatGPT or any of the others, and you can put in, make me a marketing plan, and here's all the components that I need. That makes it very tough. But marketing is still human. I still have to have this human component to marketing in order to make connection to get somebody to buy something. So maybe not. And that's what makes it tough, because you technically, yes, but human wise? No. So it makes those decisions really hard. And as a president running an institution, you're always looking at both of those, right? Your customer is human, your operations may not be in certain aspects. How do you balance it, especially when you have limited resources most of the time, right?
What does that mean about, like, when I think about, like, we have a radiological technician program. So radiology might be something AI can diagnose, right? Machine learning can look at what MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, etc., and make some determinations, but it can't do the actual work of taking the picture or right putting the human into the MRI. And then back to your point, Joe, then do you trust the machine, right? Or do you want the human eyes on it? So how do we kind of think those things through as to where does the curriculum need to be? And it might allow us to have a higher level curriculum because some of the foundational stuff is AI is capable of doing. Does that make sense? You know, like I think of accounting, right? Legal, or I mean, do you need an attorney?
Oh, watch out, lawyers.
Well, I don't want to get sued. But what I'm saying is, you know, like will preparation. There's already software packages that can do that for you. Now imagine AI can do that, but now you get a very sophisticated estate plan, right? You probably want a, you know, kind of like you're talking about marketing. There's a human touch to it too. So it's going to be balanced as we try and grapple with how AI is going to change the world, because it's going to change the world in the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, this has been fascinating. Greg, do you have any final questions for Rich before we give him our final two to then end the episode?
No, maybe the last question to end on is you mentioned what keeps you up awake at night, Rich. Maybe the next question or last one is, what are you most excited about?
Boy, I'm excited about the future of Dunwoody. Well, I'm excited about the future of Dunwoody. I'm excited about my upcoming retirement. But I'll talk. But the future of Dunwoody is really wonderful because we really have created so much momentum here. We've created so much capacity here, and I'm really looking forward to looking back in another 3, 4, 5 years and see where the faculty, staff, and board of trustees, new president took this to, because there's a whole different level that we can't even conceptualize that we're going to get to.
When are you retiring, Rich?
June 3rd, or July 1 will be my last day.
July 1 of 2024?
Yep.
Very well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's incredible. So you'll spend a few months making a list of all the places you're going to visit, right? When you retire, Italy, Greece, Australia, New Zealand.
Well, we've done a lot of our traveling, so I think for maybe a year we're just going to decompress, golf, grandkids, spend we're in Minnesota, so definitely not interested in another winter here.
Fair enough. What else do you want to say about Dunwoody? Open mic, anything you want to say about the institution?
I would just say that for the last, what has it been, 14, 15 years I've been able to be present here. I can't tell you how proud of the faculty and staff I am of all the commitment they've made to making sure that we have the best educational programs with rigor, integrity, and teaching the students the skills that make them relevant in the workforce. And they've just been doing a great job. So what differentiates Dunwoody is pretty simple. It's our people. It's people that care about our mission, that care about our students. And it's been fascinating to watch all that the last several years.
You talked about it a little bit, but give us your outgoing crystal ball moment for all of the presidents out there that are going to come in, or the ones leading institutions now. What do you see for the future of higher education or post-secondary education?
Yeah, I see a lot of challenges. I see better understand your financial model, take care of your students, and be willing to innovate and adapt, because the future is going to be changing.
What did you think of this conversation, Greg?
I thought it was great. I know I got off on the wrong foot and introduced the guests before.
Don't worry, we never forget. We'll remind you next time.
I won't make that mistake again. But no, this was fantastic. It was a nice treat for me, because I mentioned I had spent a lot of time in the skills-based area of higher ed, and visited and spoke with a lot of college presidents that run schools and faculty and so forth. So when I saw you were the guest and I was invited to co-host, it was a pleasure to kind of revisit some of the things I've done in the past. So this was a great discussion, and wish you the best in retirement, Rich.
Well, thank you.
Had a great career.
Well, he started rough, but he goes out looking like a champ, ladies and gentlemen. He is Greg Clayton. He is the president of Enrollment Management Solutions at Education Dynamics. Greg, always a pleasure to have you on. I know we'll see you again. And Rich, it has been an honor. Ladies and gentlemen, he is my guest. No, he is your guest. He is Dr. Rich Wagner. He's president of Dunwoody College of Technology. Rich, we hope that this was in your long career and leading to your the best podcast that you've ever been on. We hope you had a good time.
I did. Thank you very much, everybody.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.
Attention.
It's time to register for Ellucian Live 2024, April 7th through 10th in San Antonio, Texas. Illuminate, innovate, inspire, explore higher education's greatest opportunities with future-ready ideas, solutions, and best practices designed to drive transformation. Register now at elive.ellucian.com. This conference is going to be epic. Hey there, higher ed leaders. Are you thinking about joining the EdUp Experience podcast at Insights EDU on February 20th through 22nd in Phoenix, Arizona?
100%.
I thought so. This is the go-to event for higher education marketing and enrollment management. At Insights EDU, you'll gain cutting-edge insights from industry experts, including speakers from companies like Google, LinkedIn, Adobe, Salesforce, and more. Become the transformational leader your campus needs by participating in discussions on important topics like online student demands and preferences, increasing affordability and accessibility, branding, measuring marketing performance, and much more. Insights EDU is the conference you need to attend in 2024. Register now at insightsedu.com and use the code EdUp to save $50 off your registration.